Osiris.
Count to 3. Come with me, and you'll be in a world of
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
You have found Daniel Donato's Lost Highway.
That lost highway.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to Season 2, the start of Season 2, Episode 51 of the Lost Highway Podcast, the podcast of all things Cosmic Country. We are coming to you today with our friends Osiris Media and Topo Chico, two of my favorite brands on this planet, one of many, and there's definitely other life forms on there. And the second that I get a chance to meet one of them, I'm going to play them a podcast from Osiris Media. I'm going to crack open a cold Topo Chico for them, or room temperature, dependent on what their body temperature is, dependent if they have bodies, dependent if they like to hydrate with mineral water. I would assume they would, because every human I've ever met does. I want to give you guys something here that I find sincerely inspiring and very much so grounded in the truth that is very useful for you in your life, which is what every minute on this Lost Highway podcast should be for you, is I want it to be either entertaining or useful. This is from Seth Godin from his blog that he puts out every day. And this is one called Perfect or We're Not Going. When does this rule apply? It doesn't apply to anyone we've ever hired. It doesn't apply to anything we've ever purchased. It doesn't apply to any project we've sponsored or anyone we've ever voted for, dated, befriended either. In fact, it's a great excuse for the things we're afraid to do or where our inclination is to say no anyway. If you're hoping for inaction, look for perfect. Let me repeat that just one more time. If you're hoping for inaction, look for perfect. And this is the kind of truth that makes you feel humbled, because if you ever think you've ever done anything perfect, you're just so sincerely wrong. And like the very fundamental nature of being a human is the fact that you're created in this imperfect image, literally incapable of perfection. And so everything we do radiates with a beauty of imperfection. So just realize that life is actually probably just a little bit easier than trying to attain something perfect. You might as well just take action. You know, I find that the more action that you take, the more that you're actually collaborating with reality and life. And that life is really the greatest teacher. Nature is the greatest teacher. It's greater than any person you're going to meet or mentor. Your rubber to the road experience with working with the obstacles and opportunities that life puts in front of you to test you are going to be the things that I'm learning this, that allow you to see your patterns of yourself, to see your intuitive reactions to things that come into your mind and into your purview of the simulation of the reality that we all participate in. The only way to move forward is to actually just go ahead and take action. So if you're feeling cluttered, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like it seems impossible, sit down and just think about what are 3 next action steps that you could take. And it's almost magical to see how the road unveils and how the imperfections actually create the everlasting moments of identity that have the opportunity to create something truly captivating, timeless, and useful for everyone who comes in contact with it. I wanted to give you all that to start off this season. Really exciting episode here. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Let's kick it off in the most cosmic way possible. My next guest today is Jim Pollock, a close friend of everyone in Phish. He's been there since the start. He's done some of the most iconic artwork for the band, going from early album art to legendary posters that have dated back, within the decades, to even this most recent summer tour where you can go and buy some of their pin collaborations that they're doing. And I actually discovered Jim's art when I was asked to be a part of the Cluster Flies album. And we did a cover of Back on the Train on there, and the album art came out. I was just like blown away. It took me to a different world. It was just like, this is so pungent and realized and individualized. And I could tell that the printing technique was the most analog that you could do in a realistic sense for a project of that nature. So I did some inquiring and realized it was Jim, and then reached out to Jim's girlfriend, and then Jim was in Nashville during the Phish tour, and we got together in my manager's apartment building, and we drank some iced coffee, and we talked about Goddard College, we talked about veganism, we talked about this is one that's brilliant. that I took from Jim is that it is all right to do things slow and correctly and allow your vision to develop as you work, moving forward with imperfection. I found that to be so inspiring. Brilliant mind, sincerely so experienced, and I'm very grateful to have had the time to sit down and talk with him. Truly the legend, Mr. Jim Pollock.
Then now it's I don't know, it's moved on, but like that was where I got my start. But then over time it helped me work in kitchens, be able to like cook, and then teach myself more vegetarian cooking, eating, and just living a healthy life kind of thing. Yeah.
Have you ever done the Whole Foods plant-based?
Or the meat, the Beyond Meat and Beyond, or
I think it's the opposite where it's literally no processed food.
right, just right. Yeah, I've had some of that
Not even
product.
oil. I think they try to cut that out.
Right,
as well.
they've trying to cut out oil. Yeah, it's like amazing. Like this whole plant-based diet thing seems to be a very it's a trend going on, but I don't think it seems to be represented by like the media and stuff like that, because the media is still involved in older forms of diet and stuff.
Right, saying that milk is good for your bones.
Right, and all that.
Immense
And
lies
where's
just
your
used to-
protein coming from if you're not,
Yeah.
eating animals and that type of thing?
It is tough though, going on tour. I found and not consuming meat protein. I did
Right.
vegan for 2 years. I tried it.
But I find
diligently.
more and more, especially even this tour, that there's
yeah.
much more access. It's like crazy. People are taking up the, business models to like address these markets that are coming very quickly. People want more and more of this, the plant-based diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you cook a lot?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm not making art, I'm often cooking. And over the pandemic, I taught myself a lot about fermenting vegetables, making aged vegan cheeses, and kind of brushing up on stuff that I know will be helpful.
Are you into probiotics?
Yeah, I feel like
Kimchi
that.
and-
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, I make the kimchi. I just made a bunch of kimchi, make kimchi pancakes and that kind of thing.
Those
yeah,
are
it's
astounding. Yeah.
very good for me. Yeah. I mean, as somebody who's in my late 50s, I have to like be careful about what I eat and stuff like that. Things, have effects very quickly that didn't when I was younger.
Whoa. Do you find that eating healthier ensures a better creative process at all?
I think so. Or I don't know. I mean, like, sometimes like feeling. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to feel bad, but then as well as I do that like creative process sometimes is stirred by not good feelings or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't like eat badly, but like sometimes you get to those bad feelings by bad choices you made and you don't even realize it, but then like the artistic process takes over and like gets fed by all of that stuff. So I try to stay healthy, but then I guess sometimes the artistic process forces one to reanalyze stuff, and like sometimes it comes from dark places, right?
Immensely. That you didn't even know were there.
Because you write songs, and that's a tough. I've never been able to write a song, but like
It's the hardest thing I've ever tried to do.
me.
It's the hardest thing I've ever tried to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because like I mean, to take a feeling and then put it into like the musical context.
You took a song. I discovered your work just this year, and I've become a fast fan because I love the concept of someone creating something and there only being X amount of it,
Right.
and then people losing their shit over it for years to come. And there is this thing that you did for Friend of the Devil, and Anne Marie was a boat,
Oh right, yeah.
and it's yeah, and it's. Oh, that got killed.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it cool if I ask you about the concept behind that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like the
Interpreting that song, it was like,
right.
I've been listening to that song for over a decade. I'm sure you've been listening to it for decades. I've never thought of interpreting it in that way.
Right. Yeah. Or, I'm obsessed with like film noir and kind of like movies from, I don't know, 50s and 60s that are kind of like dark.
Me too.
And then like, I think it's like that. It's like I turned it into this kind of like guy on the lamb, which it is. He's on the lamb.
Guy on the lamb.
Is
that
and
an archetype of a sort?
Yeah, like, avoiding the law and like being kind of lawless. And like, because like the dogs are chasing him, chased by 20 hounds. And then like, I was just like kind of interpreting it as like this kind of, this guy did something wrong and the cops are after him and stuff like that. And then, his boat's the Anne Marie, who's, waiting for him.
Yeah.
To help him get away.
And the thing you're waiting for is ultimately the first reason why you cry. And it's like the first thing that lets you down.
Right.
It's like interpreting those archetypes in that abstract of a way was something I would never have thought of in that.
Oh, thank you.
Basically writing a song.
Yeah. Or like it is. It's kind of fun when I get to, I don't know. Yeah, I get to kind of, I draw from a lot of things, but a lot of times like, sometimes the music itself, being able to like reinterpret music and stuff like that. Like the whole interplay of making a poster for a musical event,
Wow.
It goes hand in hand with that kind of stuff. But like, I don't dabble in like the film or the songwriting realm. But like, it's always fun to like kind of like people look at songs or interpret them all different ways and just try to reinterpret a lot of that stuff. It's fun. Like there's an open-endedness to the whole process.
Are fun and open-endedness perhaps one in one?
Yeah. I mean, like the net keeps getting, or the tent keeps getting larger, and like at first, I think when I started doing art, I think I was more focused on certain things, but as time goes on, you realize you can just grab from so much.
So does that mean you were letting go in some way? Like you were
Yeah, I think always. I mean, like I think that's experience. You think you don't realize how limited you are until you like try out some things, and then you have more to draw from just based on experience alone.
Right.
Right.
Whoa. And the more you experience, the more you realize that your presuppositions are not really valid in some way.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's a good place to be not so sure, but sure enough to like make something or be creative, make a meal, things that aren't gonna harm too many people. And in my case, like too many animals. Yeah, basically. It's
So you found vegetarian practices through the morality of proper animal treatment.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was hyper empathetic as a kid and never liked the concept of it. I got my head around it very quickly that it was animals I was eating. Didn't like the smell. Never liked the smell when I was told, oh, you have to drink milk every day. And I have to drink milk. And then I learned how to hold my nose while I was drinking without holding my nose by hand. I don't know. There seems to be a muscle back there. And so, I could, drink it and not smell it because I just couldn't stand it. But, it was this is what you do. Got milk, all that stuff. It was people were just, no, you have to have it or you'll be unhealthy. And it's I got around it eventually.
So I didn't know this about you. And in observing so many works, dozens of pieces that you've done, there's a lot of animals.
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
fish,
yeah.
there's cows, and
Right.
there's little friendly animals alive throughout all the work.
Right.
Interesting now. So it's almost they serve to be symbols of something different than I was interpreting them.
Or almost. I think almost. I used to, when I lived in Chicago, I've just moved to Pittsburgh about 3 years ago. I used to do a lot of figure drawing and then also go to the zoo and draw animals. I like figures. I guess I like forms and like figurative. And like even the animals, it's like looking at the tendons and muscles and tissue, not unlike our own bodies. And so, and I do sketches of like a lot of plants and stuff like that. It's mostly, just kind of interpreting all this geometry that these figures are transmitting to us, kind of. Because like they're all like based on like golden ratio and phi and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, Nikola Tesla with the 369.
Which also
and
music does. Yeah.
in an immense way, major scale 7 notes, triads are 3 notes.
Right, but like people forget that like Pythagoras, outside of the triangle, was famous for plucking strings that he found very fascinating, and then like he started dividing them up using the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. And so, when you have a triad, you have a 2/3. The original, the 2/3, the size of that note, and the 3/5 of that note. And like that's all Fibonacci and golden ratio that form that. And that's the guy who invented, that's mostly known for triangles, is also well known as the person who like started analyzing the plucking of strings and turning them into harmonic things that sound good to the ear based on these ancient geometry.
Immense. Right, and the tools are unchanged.
Unchanged since the, what is it, like 300 BC? I can't remember.
Right? That's so fascinating. It's something that's occurred to me as the world has started to open up, and there's so much evolution in hardware, say in fitness, and right, there's Peloton bikes, and then
Right.
people are getting new they're getting these new giga yachts that they're flying on, or that they're taking out to the ocean, and this. But the thing that is unchanged, like truly, are musical chords.
Right.
Over
I mean, they
thousands of
change
years.
globally. And like in India, you find like the microtones, which are even more divided tones that are still related to that same ancient geometry that is the only difference. But yeah, I mean, then they work with like a whole array of like subdivided strings. They've just gone like, a little further with the whole division of everything.
Right, yeah. And then you start getting those beautiful sitar.
Right.
And these instruments have different resonance levels than your standard guitar.
Yeah.
Right, and these slack tunings that get so low it's almost imperceptible to our ear.
Yeah.
And an approach to something that we all share, which is music, and cultures have these different ways of saying this is how we do it, and this is how it affects our culture, and we tell our stories through it. But yet these similar archetypes of songs with just 3 chords. You know, and that's the funny thing too here in Nashville is the thing is you have 3 chords in the truth.
Right.
And it's like, well, that's not proprietary to this city by any means. That's something that, and again, the number 3.
Right.
It's almost freaky if you start looking for it and you start seeing it everywhere and it exposes itself to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's everywhere. I mean, and it's funny that like,
Funny.
that like it's like a geometry, but then it becomes like audible geometry on a level.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that. Audible geometry.
Yeah. I mean, it's using geometric divisions to create the harmonic tones. And like they didn't, if you'll read the history of Pythagoras and like his process of getting to where he got to, he was looking for these tones. And once he like happened on oh, of course, the golden ratio, and I'll start dividing it by that.
What is the golden ratio? I want to pretend to know.
It's like anything can be divided into like a line can be divided. You can divide it in half, but if you divide it by like 0.618 yada yada yada, then it turns into a tool. So like you can balance a line, but like if you move the thing that's balancing the line to the golden ratio point, then it becomes a lever where it's like more powerful and you're utilizing the line to do something. And then also the same thing can be said, like if you take a string and you divide that by a golden ratio, you get a magical tone with the two together that sounds very delightful to the ear. And like that's magical. And so like people just keep testing that over and over. And that's why everyone likes music, I feel. It's much bigger than us. Yep.
Yeah. In a way, that's very humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like it also transcends language and all that type of thing. Because like I love world beat. I mean, I love like Latin, Cuban, Afro-Cuban, Afrobeat, Nigerian high life. It's unbelievable.
It is, and the thing too is, if you listen to it, it unveils a place in your mind that was always in there that you might have never actually physically been to.
Right. Yeah.
And
like those rhythms. I mean, when I started listening to them I started hearing it like even with Carlos Santana and stuff, and just like, what is that? Because like that's just a driving, and then you find out about the clav and how you're, it's like, and then that's mathematical too, because you basically have two beats on top of each other driving what is very danceable situation basically. And then you realize, all these cultures go out and dance all the time, and music is part of their ever living existence, where we like kind of parse it out and have our music festivals. Someone in Africa might just constantly be surrounded by different types of music and art and stuff like that. I think we're trying to get toward that, because there's a certain balance that brings to, cultures and stuff.
Whoa. So you're suggesting that the incorporation of like the live music experience is
Right.
much more assimilated,
Right.
in perhaps less industrialized cultures.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, like, or like, I guess, what would you call it? Like white European kind of like, I mean, like, what is the show or the movie? Footloose.
oh, sure.
And it's
Sure.
like based on like actual, like up in like Michigan, like Dutch reformists who find what we do like just very bad, like dancing together, men and women dancing together, enjoying music. It's just like a bad thing. And like, I don't know. I don't know how their, numbers are doing, but like, I like dancing with my, hanging out and having a nice time. And I think it's like a very enjoyable experience. I've always had fun at the Phish shows since I started going, and like, it's kind of fun. And then, I guess it kind of got like a bad rap or something. Like, oh, you're gonna go to the Phish shows all the time, but like, they're a lot of fun, and there's more of that stuff happening all the time. And like, ever since, I guess, the demise of CDs and like MP3, like bands have been playing a lot more and like selling more tickets, and a lot's changed in music in a very short period of time. And I got to witness it or be part of it. It's kind of cool.
Witnessing and being a part of something. That's like the privilege, one of the great privileges of life here.
Right.
There can be a part of you that's a witness.
Right.
And then there's a part of you that's the experiencer, the consumer of it all.
Right.
And there's that space in between, in the subconscious, where it all can kind of start to dwell.
Right.
And you can draw upon that and create from there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it is. It's all. I guess it on a level it is. It's a little greedy of my part because like I just want to like be fed, have my head fed by like just very interesting. Yeah, it's always great to go out to the shows and like I enjoy myself and like and you enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And then and yeah, just I don't know, it's just a nice experience. I like it never gets tiring. I mean, I've always liked seeing live music of all sorts, but like when you kind of know these people and they have made like this huge catalog of music and you get to watch that, it's like I don't know, it's like a little surrealistic, I'd have to say.
It's like the psychedelic experience in some way too, where is it surreal or is it perhaps so real because it comes from a reality that's so much more benevolent and large from the one we interact with on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
It's like the most real.
It's almost taking over.
Yeah.
Or hopefully, but like yeah, I mean I myself like have a very limited experience with like psychedelics. I'd say like mostly in high school, a little bit in college, but like really very little. But my high school experiences were almost enough to give me the idea. I always think like those types of experiences give me the thought of like what Einstein tells us. It's like everything is relative, and like even when you think you're perceiving something a certain way, you better turn it over in your head a few ways because like it might not actually be the way you're seeing it or perceiving it. And that's a very powerful thing because like a lot of people are just like told to go with their first impulse and like not, and it's fight or flight instead of being actually cognitive and like being able to like think about things. And as long as you keep your life kind of simple, hopefully you can do that.
Oh, what do you mean by keep your life kind of simple?
Well, like kind of have a job that like you can deal with and like and that's always difficult, and I had a lot of jobs and this is my best by far, but like it's all that balance and feed yourself well and have some time for me to go out and dance with a bunch of people and enjoy some music. It's it's not rocket science. It's like, it's you got to feed your body. I'm glad that there's like this resurgence of like psychedelics being embraced by the psychological community. Because like that, I think that's the bigger thing. The bigger thing is that like it's become like acceptable for like in terms of like talk therapy and stuff like that, which I've been a big fan of for many years. And
oh,
like,
really?
Yeah. And like it's really how I got to Goddard. I met a guy who was a psychologist who had gotten a degree there. I was going to him, and for a number of reasons, but like he was like, what do you do? And I just started pulling out all these drawings I did. Like, he was like, you should probably go to a place that like you already are motivated. I'm like an autodidact. I like can teach myself and just keep myself busy all the time. And he's like, you should go to this college. I just graduated from Goddard. And he told me about it. I went up, And Goddard was like a Dewey. It was John Dewey School of Education, founded in like the 1800s, but like it had a big heyday in the 60s and 70s. Kind of a big drama place. David Mamet went there. There was a lot, and Bread and Puppet, and then you also had glass and sculpture and stuff. By the time we got there, it kind of like past its prime. We were like there, but like it's teaching a lot of the same things: permaculture,
Right.
macrobiotic, and stuff like that. But you can teach yourself. They don't like give you any grades. They're like, what do you want to learn? And like,
Right.
and I just like, well, I just want to like learn about like the history of cartoons. I like studied all about like, and they have a decent library, and all about like the history of like editorial cartoons. I was making editorial cartoons and just like doing that kind of thing, and then learning more about media and finding out about like Malcolm McLaren and like.
Was there
like,
ever any R. Crumb studies in that time?
No, but I knew him, and like we had his comics, and like drawing some crazy comics like that,
Yeah.
and like kind of wanted to be a comic book artist, and like kept that stuff going. I left Goddard, finished at the Art Institute in Chicago, but those guys kept like, oh, we still want your art, and then I would do T-shirts, and then around '98, I like started doing these linoleum prints, and just kind of like, it's kind of this organic process, and it's just been amazing. I mean, like I spent 3 years there, but like it's had such a profound influence on my life, from the vegetarian to being in Phish being in the Phish organization and doing their art, and then like being part of like the people who like them, and like it's amazing how many generations are like turned on by my friends' music. It's amazing. It's like, I mean, you don't see that, especially some guy I ran into at this hippie school, and then next thing I know, it's
Right.
like crazy.
And it probably is next thing you know. Like, I've only had a brief amount of time here, and I can already start to see it fly. You can already feel it starting to fly, and
Right.
there's memories you forget that you had, and you go, oh, fuck, I forgot that happened in that
Right.
Christmas, and I was wearing that, and I was listening to this at that time, and I felt this way about that, and now that I'm older, I feel differently about it. I can only imagine, with the roads that you've traveled over these years, how that's compounded. Again,
Right.
going back to Einstein, he's saying
Right.
it's one of the wonders of the world is compound interest.
Right,
Who
right.
understand it, is glorified by it, and who doesn't dies by it. It's like,
It's amazing.
I can only imagine what that's like for you. It must be super normal, super real.
Yeah. I mean, you almost.
Just the millions of dollars too that you've curated, contributing your artwork to people, and how much value that brings to their lives.
Yeah, no, that's like the powerful thing is, that Phish has created this amazing nonprofit organization called Water Wheel, and they have like this very good connection with like small nonprofits all throughout the country, and like you don't even come across that too much, but they're taking advantage of their touring, and then they're able to like connect with these very small organizations in which the money goes a long way. And it's just given like based on like these relationships that this one nonprofit agency has with these others that are directly give, but like it's great to have this one organization that like I've worked with for years, and and then it was a no-brainer when he started Divided Sky that I was going to help out. And I mean, the poster thing is an amazing thing, because like when I started this whole thing, I wanted to be an artist as a kid.
Right.
I was thinking more comics or comic books and stuff like that. But now I've learned all about this whole thing with like posters and multiples and like the collective like wealth of stuff that goes on with it, including like the ability to get people involved in donating and stuff like that. It's just, it's people are putting it up like they went to a show. Oh, I gave to this thing. And people, there's so much generosity in this crowd. It's amazing.
It doesn't even make sense. It's almost like it's not even in the society that we live in. Everyone's so friendly, not judgmental, and
right.
If you're looking at them as magicians, the biggest trick they're playing on us is they trick us to be present and here.
Yeah. It's like my shirt, my no talking shirt.
No, that's new for me. I've seen that a lot go around over the past week. A lot of stop talking.
Right.
What's for everyone doesn't know about that?
Oh,
what's
it's
your
like
take
a
on that?
chomper is a person who's talking during a song.
Right.
I mean, you can talk in between or whatever. But everyone, and then now it's like everyone knows to like, okay, can you be quiet? They're in the middle of a playing. It's just, common courtesy. But then I think, it's also like the collective concentration on the music. The more people are concentrated, the more everyone's going to get out of it.
Which is like very Carl Jung in that way.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're engaging with the collective consciousness or
Yeah.
whatever.
I'm a huge Jung fan.
Are you? Me too.
Yeah. Because,
Me too.
I think we're in the realm of him. I think,
Yeah.
Sigmund Freud won the the battle of psychiatry, or at least the turning it into something you can make money from. But now Carl Jung with like social media, kind of this collective notion that
Right.
people have adopted, for good or for bad, and even Carl Jung said it can go very haywire. He being someone who was in the Nazi youth and stuff like that.
Oh.
And he knew, he realized, his, that it wasn't his fault he was being sent. I mean, he ended up helping Wolfgang Pauli, come up with the exception principle using
What's the
his...
exception principle?
I think it's the only quantum equation that still holds true from between Heisenberg and Pauli. That they came up with these formulas under the tutelage of Niels Bohr, and he figured that stuff out because he went to Carl Jung, and there was a lot of anti-Semitism that was going on in Europe at the time.
Right.
Now, he had a lot of knowledge from having family members that knew about Kabbalah, which also has a lot of phi and golden ratio in it, and using some of the stuff that he had tucked away. Carl Jung let him bring out a lot of knowledge that he had within him that he kept buried, and he created the exception principle that way, and it still holds today.
The incorporation of shadow self is one that I'm greatly having fun with right now, presently.
Oh, yeah?
Thinking about just how that works and how you're simultaneously the anti-hero to yourself.
Right.
In a lot of ways, and the way that you can progress your journey onward is to incorporate that part of yourself into your own work, and that brings fruition of advancement forward in your art and your interaction with other humans.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you think about just the history of where Phish is going as well, right, in the 4.0 realm that we're in right now, it's like that is totally what those fellas have done, is they've incorporated perhaps the shadows, right? And
Right.
we find sobriety, and but at the end we find family, and we find love, and all kinds of different stories that wouldn't have been found unless they traversed those negative parts.
Right. Yeah.
It's like Carl Jung, man, it's really hard to get around his enormity of contribution.
Right. Yeah. He covered it all, and you start to realize his functionality now, or I do now. I feel like it was difficult. I don't know, even back in the 80s, you didn't see his his brilliance shine through the way you do now. Now that you have the internet and stuff.
Yeah, right. For better or worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, for better or worse.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about was the recent cover that you did for Cluster Flies.
Oh yeah.
That's where I discovered your work. Your interpretation of that landscape, where that's taking place. When I go back and I listen to that record now, I can't help but go to that place that you gave us.
Right.
There, and it's crazy. Like, I want to go to that world.
Right.
Right. It's like, so what was your approach to doing that whole album? Was it, do you overthink that? Do you?
Right. Or I can't remember. Like, yeah, I mean, it was going to be like some kind of like landscape, I think. I think like everything, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like start throwing things in. I can't remember who the process was. Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. She showed me a picture of like those studios and stuff like that. No. Oh, the farmhouse.
The farmhouse. Yeah.
Right. The farmhouse where it was. That's right. Right. Yeah. And so it was from that. And then I went, and then I added some other things, and we put the Northern Lights in. And great track, by the way.
Oh, you listened?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
It
I
means a
always
lot.
thought that, I mean, you know, that's a great song.
It's a
And
great
especially like country and western, like, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It really is a phenomenal song. It's like so you live your life by that song.
Right.
You really can. That's the thing too, is you can live your life to Destiny Unbound and Back on the Train, and
Right.
you know, you see your life unveil through the characters that those songs are.
Yeah.
Your art contributes greatly to that, because it's like it's matching socks. It's like there's the Farmhouse album sock, and then there's your interpretation of the art, and they match, and it's this beautiful pairing, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really transportative, which I'm realizing is with this particular chromosome that we all share when we go to these amphitheaters. That's what I think subconsciously we're asking for, is to let's all go somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely magical. I mean, like, yeah, all live music is, but like, yeah, this is especially with like the length that these guys have played together,
Boy.
with the very interesting crowd that has like developed from them playing together so long. It's like, it's really
Which you never foreshadows
otherworldly.
or
Yeah,
saw.
it doesn't happen that often.
I don't think it ever has really.
Right. I mean, the Grateful Dead can be, you know, but like, it's a different time period. So like, it's slightly different, but like, yeah, just having people play together for so long, that's a difficult thing. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet there was shadow. I bet there were negatives. I bet there had
Right.
to.
Well, they had some hiatuses. They took some
Yeah.
breaks. Yeah.
You got to. But what's a timeline in regards to something that macro?
Yeah, but I mean, everything's like, you know, full steam ahead for so far. I mean, like, we're going to see with the masks and stuff
Yeah.
later in the tour, but like, yeah, it's like everything else. You have to react to what's happening and make your best choices.
Be aware and be present.
Yeah, I've been masking up, and you know, whenever I go, and then just like take my mask off once I'm like in places, but like when I'm going to and from wherever, and I try to stay put, and then yeah, it's all hopefully this is all an experiment, but like hopefully everything's
Yes.
going good on that level.
I have a feeling this whole planet's probably an experiment to some degree.
It always has been.
I bet it has.
Right.
There's you said something to me that was so marvelous and freeing. You said that the lino cut process that you work in, you said that process found you. Now,
Yeah.
That to me is so admirable, because it says that you were looking to find something as opposed to saying and you weren't going to be
Right.
looking. And so, do you have the ability to expound on that just a hair?
Oh yeah. It's like a simple process. I was looking for like being able to do some prints, because Phish had invited me up to Clifford Ball and stuff like that. And I thought I should do a printmaking process, but like I didn't have a lot of space and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, it chose me. It was like, oh, how about linoleum? And like, yeah, just kind of not stopped. Just kind of like, I went with it. It's like one of those things where you make a choice early and then you just kind of keep going with it. And it was a good choice. I mean, it says a lot about my own style.
It does.
Yeah. And like, I love the process. It's just so, it takes forever. And I don't know. It's just like, kind of puts you into this like Zen-like process mood where, you just have to wait and be patient for everything to transpire.
And not force it.
Right. Yeah.
Have you evolved with that truism as you have tenure in your practice now?
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, like,
I bet, right?
I'm impatient on a level. Yeah,
Me
yeah.
too, yeah.
I mean, creative people kind of a lot of times try to jump the gun.
Have you
it's like-
noticed that? Because I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a thing.
yeah, no, and you fall on your face, and then you try it a better way next time. Okay, that's part of it too. I mean, but like, yeah, I like not just drawing something, and it is. Although I do a lot of that design work, which I like, but like I like the whole printmaking process where you draw it backwards, carve it under the block, print it by hand, all of that. So, yeah, and that's where it started. And I always like to get back to my roots whenever I'm kind of like want to refocus myself. I like, doing a print kind of, and like that's usually at least a few weeks, if not a month. It's a good refocus period.
You'll have a few weeks to a month on a single idea.
Yeah, because like if you like draw it and develop it, and then you carve it backwards, and then you might have multiple plates that you have to carve.
Do you ever fuck a plate up?
Sometimes. And then like you glue parts back. But
Wow.
like essentially less now. Or like,
Yeah, of course.
I kind of like I've figured out all the things that make me fuck up. But like
Really?
hopefully,
Yeah,
I mean
hopefully.
most of that's you get
probably
better
more-
and better. The tricks of the trade. Cuz like it chose me and nobody trained me in this. But like, I've taught myself.
That's what Alan Watts says, is you interacting with experience is the greatest teacher you could have.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to, another human just telling
Right.
you words from their mouth.
Right.
You know what to do. It's like, well.
Just saying it's a wrong answer isn't half as good as falling on your face, right?
Oh, wow. Is that from you or is that a quote?
I don't know, from me, but like that's how I
That's
feel.
brilliant.
It never gets through your head. You're always going to screw up a couple more times if it's someone's just telling you, nope, that's the wrong way.
It's funny.
Until you have some real experience from like your bad decision or whatever. The falling on your face always helps a little. I mean,
I know. I bet you can look back at your time and have to say that in some degree that your resume is probably an amalgamation of all the hardships that you've traversed.
Yeah, School of Hard Knocks, right?
Yeah. What a
Right.
great degree to have.
Right. No, I love that degree. And then, yeah, that's the hippies. It's like they taught me how to be a vegetarian, but also to be confident in like what you think you can attain. And now with the internet, and you have access to so much information, people forget that like you can teach yourself anything.
Anything.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
free.
yeah. For free, right? For now, and like,
Right.
right now we have a free internet. We can't assume we'll always have that.
There might be a good era for a paid internet.
Right,
You can
right.
do VPNs and secure and browse safely and not be targeted through advertisers, and they won't sell your data. And
Right.
that's a good way to go about it in some way.
Yeah. I mean, we can figure it out, but yeah, you can't just assume that's always going to be available. As a kid who spent most of his time in his libraries looking for information, and now I have it at my fingertips, I guess I'm pretty appreciative, probably more so than somebody who's always had it at their fingertips.
Me.
Yeah.
You don't even imagine reality without Google. It's
Right. And looking for songs, all of that stuff. I've become a kind of good guitar player. Paige taught me how to play guitar. And then
Really?
like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And then And then basically I've learned since and taught myself a lot of stuff, YouTube videos, tabs, all that. It's fun.
That's great. What do you like to play on guitar?
Bossa Nova and jazz stuff.
Any Django Reinhardt?
I've tried some, but yeah, no, I'm not, I mean, that's tough stuff, man.
2 fingers too. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I do nylon string right now.
Like
I
Whitney.
like it. Yeah, I kind of I learned on steel string, but have gone over to nylon string because like the bossa nova, the Brazilian stuff.
oh man, yeah. Okay. Al Di Meola, have you gotten into him? The 3
Oh
nights,
yeah.
Night in San Francisco, that record?
Oh right. No, I don't know. I'm not sure if I know it. I knew the Al Di Meola of Mahavishnu Orchestra,
This is
Return to
different.
Forever.
This is so
Right,
dumb.
right.
This will blow your mind.
Right.
You've never heard this before.
Right.
It's 3 nylons, 3 of the most actualized and realized guitarists sharing and dispensing of their ego for one night
Right.
in San Francisco, and they're jamming too, and they have like a
Right.
37-minute bossa nova jam on just nylon guitars. They're accompanying rhythm, bass lines, and melodies and chords. 3 guys.
I'll
at
have to check
a
that
miraculous
out.
Tempo.
Right.
I'll send it to you once we wrap this up. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's mesmerizing.
Yeah. No, he's an amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
I mean, so fast. It's like a lightning. Like lightning.
Yeah,
No, I remember like reading an article about like how he was played with Chick Corea, like Return to Forever. I think it was and then like how Chick Corea found him, and he was like a kid, and he's just like crazy, crazy great guitar player, way ahead of his
virtuosity.
way ahead of his age.
Well, Jim, thanks for this time. This was
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming and talking. In the midst of Phish tour.
Yeah. No, it's nice.
Has that word evolved for you over the years, what that means?
Phish tour. Yeah, I mean, I kind of started touring pretty extensively starting in 2016 or 17, and like kind of enjoying seeing my friends play. In this period of time, I kind of missed earlier periods. I mean, unless they were coming through Chicago, I'd see them. But like now, I'm seeing them as much as I can. It's a lot of fun to see them in this period, in which their energy level is just as high, and there's a lot of communication going on, and they're still retooling and rearranging songs that you thought that they wouldn't touch forever. But like, I was listening to things in Atlanta and Alabama, things even in Tweezer that I'm like, wow, what are you doing in there? Oh my God, you're like changing, and it's just for the better. I think it has a lot to do with Trey playing with like a string quartet and like giving space for instruments, and he's even retooling stuff that like you think like he'll never touch again, but like he's always tinkering.
Always.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be, right? The universe is constantly doing that with us. And
Right.
Our reality, might as well do it with music. The reality we create through it.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's immense to hear. I'm glad that you enjoyed that tweezer. I'm new here, and that tweezer was revelatory for me, and so the fact that it was pungent for you as well.
Right.
That was the 6th longest one in history, according to
was it?
according to YouTube.
All right.
That's what they say.
Well,
It's kinda
YouTube.
Cool. That's a good.
I guess we have to ask Fishnet. That's the end all.
That is the
helping
end all.
helping friendly app people.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Such
much.
a pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Right.
I think Jim is a brilliant example of who you are, bleeds into what work you do. Having had the chance to sit down and talk with Jim, going through the decades of work that he's been putting out, it makes a little bit more sense. It seems a little bit more centralized. It's friendly. It's abstract. It's hyper realized in its individual sense. It's immensely creative, and it's very relatable to the audience that is consuming it. And I really do. I love Jim's work, and I love Jim now as a person. I hope you guys got to see a different side of him in this podcast that you weren't able to access through his art or previous discussions. I know he doesn't do a lot of podcasts. The only one I ever saw him do was one with Tom Marshall, which of course he's known for years. So this was, we improvised. Improvising yields the best results. And that is just the simple art of taking action and letting the universe take care of the rest in some degree. I also think Jim might have said one of the best lyrics ever, which is not yet a lyric because I'm Googling it, helping friendly out people. I think that's really cool. It might be a lyric. Let me know if it is. There's a lot of things I don't see and I don't know, like most things in the world. So I could be missing out on something here. Thank you, Osiris Media, for helping take this podcast to the moon. Thank you, Topo Chico, for keeping it cosmic and keeping us all hydrated. And then ultimately, thank you, Cosmic Country listener, for listening to this podcast and staying on this whole time. We're coming out on the road soon. We have a new album coming out here at the end of September. And y'all stay tuned. It doesn't end. Always something new. Talk to y'all later.
Osiris.